How you doing?
Oh my God, so first of all, before we get into it, I am so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for doing this.
I am
I've been
very excited as well.
waiting.
I'm glad that you asked me. I was honored. I've been watching all of your videos and I'm excited to be here and get started. So
Oh, this is so good. All right, so first of all, I'm gonna go into a little bit of your background, but just to set the stage for anybody who's joining live or replay, please, do all the influencer stuff, like, share, comment, all that stuff. We're so excited. I think when I met you, it's been months now. It feels like it's been.
I think it might have been in May or June. So it's been like 5 or 6 months.
Oh my gosh. There was just something to me that was an instant connection. And I was like, God, I don't know what it is. I'm just drawn to this person. And you remind me the good side of me, y'all.
You said we were kindred spirits. So.
Yes. So this is awesome. So thank you. And so what we're going to do today, for those of y'all who are joining us, I want to make sure that we get kind of a life update. But for me, when I think about everything that you're doing in your professional career moves, physical moves, all of these things, that all of the everything that you're going through, as a young married professional woman, is something that I think will inspire and encourage a lot of folks who are in your position, who really could get some good advice and some lessons learned. So we're gonna have just our good old girlfriend talk. I have cheat, y'all. I do have some questions that are prepared. We might not get to it. It's all right. But I do want to make sure that I did shout out, because one of the things that I really appreciate about you is that when you say that you're committed to inspiring and motivating others, you're actually walking this thing out in your life. And so that is personally huge for me. And when I look at, women of color doing stuff like that, as a friend, girlfriend, mom, all of that stuff, right? It just lights things up for me. So I wanted to make sure that I said thank you to you for doing that, because
that's so sweet. Thank you.
There are girls that are watching your moves that you're not aware of, right? So I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing. It's not easy. The journey is hard, right?
It's definitely a path that is not carved out. You can plan all you want. I'm very type A, but there have definitely been some twists and turns throughout this last year. All good things, but of course, there's gonna be stuff. So definitely.
Absolutely. All right. So why don't you give us like a quick life update? First of all, if you want to share, what are you doing in your career, and what are some of the changes that you've gone through recently?
So I am actually an account manager for an ad tech company. So I would say that I'm a young woman in tech, and I hope that I inspire other women to get in tech, because it is a male-dominated field.
Yes.
So I'm kind of doing something a little bit crazy. I am uprooting my husband in my life, and we're moving to New York City, and so that's where my job is. And being someone who's from the South, being someone who has been born and raised here in New Orleans, that's where I'm from. It's a lot. It's a big overtaking. I own my own home. We're established here. So it's just been a little bit of different nuances, just trying to get acclimated to our new lifestyle, trying to see what social circle we'll be in, how my work will kind of translate into a new city. And how I can still kind of have a tether here. So it's kind of been my main goal, is just like checking boxes at this point. Honestly, that's what I've been doing, checking boxes. But it's been great. It's been great. Even with the ups and downs, I have learned so many things about myself in this past year. So I'm great.
So what are some of the things you've learned? What are some of the good and maybe the things you're like, oh, really?
So I think I just mentioned, I'm very type A. So I like to plan things. I've been journaling since I was like 10 years old, like when I had birthday parties, I was planning my own party down to the color scheme and all of that stuff. So that's definitely happened in my adult life. And with this, as much as I planned, because I knew that I wanted to leave New Orleans and start something else, we looked at several different cities. And so one of the things I looked at was, the lifestyle change, and that kind of thing would be like, are we going to keep our car? Are we going to, use the transportation that's available in the city? Like, where's my husband going to work? He's a railroad engineer, it's a completely different field. So all of these things, even though I thought I had it all planned out, I didn't. My timeline to New York was probably 4 months ago. I am still in New Orleans because the housing market is just terrible. And so as much as you can get stressed out about something, you just have to remind yourself that you can't get upset or stressed about things you can't change. Unfortunately, I don't have control over some of the variables that have been happening. And so you have to think of it and just giving yourself some time, like allowing yourself to reset and just reevaluate and not be so stuck on a plan that you may have had when you started something.
That little nod to being flexible.
Yes.
Right? That little nod to being flexible. And, we use that word a lot. And quite frankly, until that situation is real in your life, you don't know how flexible you can be.
Don't. Right? You definitely don't. I am, like I said, just someone who likes to iron out everything. And I have definitely just become someone who can adapt to anything at this point. Like, for instance, like sometimes my realtor will call and he's like, oh, we've got a showing. Can you do it in an hour? And I work from home. And so I'm just like, I guess, like, let me just like clean up the house a little bit, like it's those kind of things where I'll have meetings for, 6 hours straight, but I've got to like show my house at the same time. And it's just been a lot, but it's been a learning curve for me. I have definitely learned to just digress a little bit, calm down a little bit and just let life happen. So
I love that. Can we talk a little bit about you mentioning your career in as a woman in tech? How did you get into that field, and why did you take this kind of career route?
So I am definitely a multifaceted person. I'm going to start, and hopefully this makes sense. So I was a professional visual artist growing up. And so I commissioned out artwork and all those sorts of things. And I did that for like a lot of my childhood and into my teenage life. But I always knew that I didn't really want to go into art professionally. I've always had a logistical side of my brain where I'm just very analytical. And so I was like, science is something that I'm very into. And so I was actually going to be a biomedical engineer.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's the first career I had my sights on, like when you're asked, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's what I wanted to do. And so I went through all of the motions. I went to a science-based university here, and then I started working for a hospital, and that's when everything changed. I worked, front facing with patients, and I also worked on the business side. And after so many years of being in healthcare, I was also going to school at the same time, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
I just realized it wasn't for me. There's just sides of healthcare that we could talk about that for a long time that weren't for me. And so, I was trying to think of something else that I might have been good at. And I've always been interested in tech. With engineering, even though they are completely different fields, there is tech side of engineering. There's a tech side of healthcare. There's always going to be new systems that are being utilized in hospitals and all of those things. And so I kind of just started from scratch. I literally took a risk and I was like, I think I want to do tech now. How can I start? Where do I start? And I want people to understand, and I've spoken to people who are trying to start a new career, that you have to start from the bottom. You can't expect everything to be handed to you. I started in a position that I did not want to do. But I knew I was going to see growth in myself from starting at the bottom. I knew that I would learn a lot from my superiors, from my peers. I knew that I needed to embrace just the vernacular, the verbiage, and just know a little bit more about tech and just really be enthralled in the field itself. And so that's how I got into tech. And so once I got my foot in the door, I kind of soared, and I met so many people just networking. I've always been a person, and networking is honestly the basis of my career, I would say, and how I got started. No, honestly, just talking a lot, like getting in trouble at school when you're a little kid because you talk too much, that has helped me in life.
I love that.
Just talking to people and just kind of feeding off of what they're talking about, joining the conversation, I met you at a NAMIC event. So how did I get started in NAMIC? I could transition into that. So I actually was seeking out a mentor at my previous job, in my previous role. And my mentor is actually the reason that I'm in NAMIC. And so NAMIC, for those who are listening or those who are going to watch the recorded, it's a multi-ethnic national organization that is based for people who are working in DEI, trying to make a difference, promoting different things. And it's a great organization. I don't know where I would be without NAMIC, honestly. I literally learned a lot more about myself in the last 2 years than I think I have in my entire adult life. And I'm only 30, but I would say I learned more in the last 2 years than I have in the last 10 years. Just about myself, about my identity. Obviously, of it being multi-ethnic, there are a little bit more of transparent conversations happening. There is not a lot of coding. So, sometimes in the workplace, you feel like you're putting on this mask and you have to be a certain way around your bosses, around your peers who may have, aside from the job role, nothing to do with your life. Like you don't have anything in common, With this organization, there are so many different people that I've met. And even though we're so different, we're all there for the same thing. We're all there to do good work and to put our best foot forward and to help others, that's the root of it all, is to just be more inclusive, to be more transparent, and just to be collectively a diverse group trying to make a difference. And so with NAMIC, once my mentor introduced me, I kind of quickly got pushed in of like, oh, I see what you're doing. I see your skill set. We're just going to throw you right in there and we're just going to have you do a bunch of things. And so I've been honored to be a program chairman and a board member for the last year. And we are having our annual May Douglas ceremony. And I have just become the winner of the Emerald Rising Star Award. So I will be receiving an award in November for the work that I've done in the last year. So honestly, was not expecting that. Dude, I was actually working on this event and I had just gotten so busy that, I honestly told my committee, I was like, I don't think I can't be a part of this event, I can't give 100%. That's something about me. If I can't give you 100%, I just not going to do it. I can't do anything 50%, 20%. I got to be all in if I'm going to commit to something. Yeah. And then I get an email that I won this award that I had no idea I was nominated for. So it definitely humbles you being in NAMIC as well, because you're not getting paid. You're not getting paid for this volunteer, and so you are doing what you want to do for this organization. It's all up to you how much effort you want to put into it and how passionate you are about it. No one's knocking on your door and saying, hey, you've got this deadline, or hey, what can you contribute? It's all an independent task and just a mission for that matter. Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, congratulations. That is huge. That is so good. And I know we're not. That is my mouth fell open. That is very incredible.
Exciting. I have to give a speech. I, was in debate. And so that's the of me giving public speeches. So, the little joke I was singing in my head, honestly, and this is just silly, but whenever Halle Berry won that Oscar, and she was the first Black woman to win the Oscar, and I just remember watching that and her just not saying anything for 20 minutes, and the lights came up, the music started playing. I just hope that's not me when I have to go up on stage, people just waiting for all of this stuff to come out, because honestly, I was just stunned to know that I was even considered. And so,
that's
in
so
all
amazing.
Chaos, something amazing happened. Yeah.
In all the chaos, something amazing happened. First of all, we're not even bragging on NAMIC like we should. So I'm gonna do the not humble brag. This organization, you should join. All right, y'all should look them up and join. You do get an opportunity to rub shoulders with C-suite level individuals. It's a very diverse population. There are lots of events and learning opportunities, but the networking is incredible. And these are folks that, quite frankly, a lot of individuals don't have access to.
Exactly.
So even if you go to one event, you're in the room with people who are making things happen in the industry. So I highly recommend that, folks, please go take a look at NAMIC. There are different chapters. Depending on where you are, you can sign up and support. I plan on signing up this year as well.
Absolutely.
Get my stuff together.
I'd love to have you as a member.
Exactly. So definitely want to make sure that we give enough props. I also do want to give a props to Charles Neal, because that, my friend,
you will love that.
he is the master at networking. And so now let's talk a little bit more about networking, because this is another area where I think a lot of us during the pandemic, we lost some of the networking skills that we had, especially face to face.
Some of us did. So actually, the pandemic is the reason I got into networking a little bit more. So I've always been into marketing, and that's what my degree is in, or will be in. And so marketing, I guess the first time I ever experienced marketing, which I think is why I'm into networking, was I went to Gap's headquarters in San Francisco. I did like a little mini internship when I was like 16 years old. And I was like, wow, I'm 16, but I am rubbing shoulders with other people. Like I need to start taking advantage of just like saying something, like being heard, even if, I'm talking to C-suite level people. So during the pandemic, everyone was bored. They were making little Etsy businesses, or, they were figuring out what they were doing with their life. A lot of people
making bread.
A lot of people adopted pets, and so I got a LinkedIn, and I was like, all right, I'm a millennial. I know all about social media. I was probably 15 when Facebook came out, and before that I had social media accounts, and I was like, I can do this. So what I started doing, and I kid you not, is I started just adding people. I started reading people's profiles, and I'm like, I need to know this person. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to click to connect. And that's what I did. I now have probably 1,000 followers, but like, I just want people to understand I started at 0.
Wow.
And I think that's important because even though 1,000 is a small number, I mean, I have LinkedIn connections, people who have like over 15,000 followers. But I'm so proud of myself because I put myself out there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When someone starts YouTube or something like that.
Yes.
Now people kind of join it for monetary reasons, if I'm being transparent. But like 10 years ago, people were joining, they were making videos and maybe like 40 people saw their videos. And now these people have 1 million followers, Like I had mentioned before, you have to start somewhere to get where you want to be. And you just have to be humble in that process. You have to trust the process. Because it's not going to be cookie cutter. It's not going to be a straight line. You know what I mean? So networking. So for instance, the event that I met you at, I was probably in one of the lowest positions out of most of the people that were there. I mean, there were vice presidents there. There were presidents of companies there. And I'm talking big companies, like CEOs of major telecommunication companies were at this event. So, you've got to trust yourself. You've got to back yourself. You've got to be your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like, you got to put yourself out there. You know what I mean? And so NAMIC has kind of honestly forced me to get out of my comfort zone. A lot of people think I'm extroverted. I would say I'm an introverted person with extroverted qualities.
Yes, so, that's why we're twins.
Yes, exactly. And so, like, when you network, you have to start those conversations. And of course you can have little conversations of like, like, how's your night going? Like, oh, who do you know here? But you also need to say like, hey, this is my business. Like, plug yourself in there. Talk about what you're passionate about. People will be more drawn to your authentic self than they will to like a mundane conversation. So that's my advice on networking, is just to be yourself, honestly.
That's fantastic. Another thing I like to add when I think about networking, I do usually have a goal in mind. And for me, I do everything in threes.
Okay.
So I usually have three things that I hope to accomplish within any situation. So in networking, is there something I'm going to learn, or is there a person I'm going to meet? And the third thing is I have no plan. Literally like leave
Yeah.
space to just, I have no plan. And so I'm open to whatever happens. And those whatever happened moments are some of the most amazing connections because there is no pretense and I'm just being myself. And to your point, when you're living out your purpose, people get drawn to you whether you want them to or
They
not.
definitely do. No, that's a good point. I actually went to the Name It conference and we talked a little bit about this last week. And so I've been flying back and forth to New York to New Orleans, from New York to New Orleans. And so the conference was in New York. It was the 36th annual Name It National Conference. So that's the overseer of all of our chapters. And it was incredible. I mean, we had a panel from ESPN. We had a panel of just different people from different news networks like MSNBC and, like CNN, like just different people that you would never think that you would be in the same room with. We're talking about DEI and just talking about what their mission is and where they started. And, we had someone on the panel who was just talking about how her family is from a small town in Louisiana. But now she's, the main, just network anchors on a major network, just to have that humble experience and just talk about her career journey and, what she's doing and how she's giving back to others and, how she spends her time aside from just being in the workplace. I think that's important, and Name It teaches you that, like I said, it's volunteer based. So I personally don't treat it like a job. It is something that I do, on my own time. And it's just nice to know that other people have the same passion as me and being in a room with them. I mean, there are a lot of people there. And so what I think is important is to stretch out your social battery, because you can be overstimulated at conferences like this because you are seeing so many people. Because for instance, the dinner that I met you at, there were maybe like 70 people there.
Yeah.
But this was probably like 300 people, And so it's just important to take a breath, but then continue on. Because some people were there for a week. I was there for a day and a half, but I can tell you in that day and a half, it was
a lot.
It was a lot.
It's a lot. And I like the point you make about being overstimulated. And I think that's why I came up with my 3-point rule. Because then when I'm done, I'm out. Because I'm tapped out. Like I'm about a good hour and a half, I'm ready to, I need to step away for a moment to refresh the brain. Absolutely. And, come back and take a break and come back.
No, for sure. And that's definitely a good best practice. Like you have, yours are in 3s. Mine is honestly putting on that do not disturb on my phone.
I need to know about this because I'm terrible.
So some of the things when you're going and training. So now that I'm at the C-suite level.
Yes.
I'm always getting coached on, best practices, what I should be doing. How can I manage my time? Not wearing myself out, being present. And just being alert. As a millennial, I feel like this is definitely for us because like I said, we were in the age of social media. And so screen time, there are things on your phone. If you have an iPhone, you can look at screen time. And I'm telling you, if you're spending like 10 hours of the day just on your phone consecutively, that's bad. So what I do is I put on do not disturb and I just shut out the world. And of course I'm checking, okay, because I have clients. So of course I'm looking at my emails, but I'm not checking it like every 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Or I'm not like, binging a show for 4 hours and like, where has the time gone? If I put my phone on not disturb, I'm going to go read a book or something. I'm going to go spend time with my family or my husband or, whatever I'm doing. You have to make that me time. That's important because if you don't have that time for yourself, you can't get to that C-suite level. You can't get to that VP level, like that 5-year plan, you might as well throw it out.
That's true.
You're wearing yourself out. So by the time you're in your role for, 5 or 10 years, you're exhausted.
That's true.
You didn't start those best practices in the beginning. And so, yeah, that's where the do not disturb thing comes from. Carving out time for Taylar. And I also put blocks on my Outlook. So I have to. And that was something that a coach told me to do, that you need to start, carving out time for yourself, putting those blocks on your Outlook so that when people are trying to invite you to things and meetings, you're like, I can't. From 3 to 3:30, I'm taking some me time. And it doesn't matter what you're doing in that me time, by the way. No judgment. Yeah. You can honestly be sitting on your couch eating popcorn, but like as long as you have that 30 minutes or whatever you just yeah.
I love y'all. This is free executive coaching from Taylar, and this is for me. I don't care who else is picking this up. I needed this because you make that point about when you do get to a certain level, there's also like a fear of maintaining the position you're in.
Yes.
For some reason, right? So I end up competing against myself. And I'm working two separate personalities. I literally have an exec job during the day, and I have my organization, my company. And listen, I'm an exec in both. So I love all the tips that you're sharing. I will do better because I am terrible. I was confessing that I didn't have a good night's rest last night, and instead of figuring out, I should have figured out a way to get rested. Instead, I was like, well, it's 4 a.m. I guess I'll crank out some work.
Nope, you can't do that. You really can't. You have to sleep. Sleep is so important. It really isn't overrated. It's very important.
I love that. So we're getting free healthcare, and I dropped it in the chat. Carve time for yourself. By the way, I am trying to take notes and drop it in the chat. You might probably not see that, but I am trying to get the tidbits so that the people can hear it, see it, read it, study it, love it. All right, so I want to ask about confidence. So I'm trying to be mindful. We got about 10 minutes or so, but I want to ask you, because you are also someone who you have a really strong air of confidence. You walk in confidence, you speak in confidence. And I love strong, confident women. I am also a confident woman, so that might be it. But I want to know from you, where do you get your confidence from, and how do you renew your confidence? How do you kind of stay in that flow?
So I will say every person has imposter syndrome.
I don't have that.
I can't tell you how many times you'll be just sitting at your desk, even if you work from home and you're like, what am I doing? How did I get here? Do people actually trust me? Am I doing okay? Did I check everything off of the list I made this morning? You just have to trust yourself and back yourself, kind of like what I talked about earlier. I think my confidence is a choice.
Yeah.
It's not something that comes naturally, you can't wait for things to happen. I ultimately had to make that internal choice to say, this is how I want to be seen in the world. This is how I want to accept myself. This is how I'm going to get from A to B. Because if I'm not confident, then I'm drowning. I'm drowning and I'm overthinking, and I'm sitting up at 3 a.m. in the morning oh my God, I had a typo in that email that I sent at 2:15 to this client. That's a new person. They're gonna totally disperse. They're never gonna work with me again. All of that anxiety, you have to think about it and release it. So some people, just from a therapeutic standpoint, they're criers. I've never been a crier, but I know that some people will just go sit in their car and get it all out, and they'll just
it's a release.
They have to make that feeling tangible, and then they release it. That works for some people. For me, I'm a pros and cons person. I'm not completely confident all day, every day, because that would be insane. Yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, I am a confident person. So when I'm closing my eyes, I'm like, I did everything I could today. I put in all of my best effort today, and that's it. I think, not that I have children or anything, but I think whenever I do, that's going to be a very teachable moment that I will just tell my children, is to just, at the end of the night, that's when you settle and you're like, I did everything I could. If I didn't get a good grade on that test, it's just knowing that I studied as hard as I could and I still made the grade that I made. I have no regrets. I think that goes with marriage as well. A lot of people who have been with their partner for a long time, of course you love your partner, of course, but you have to go to sleep knowing we're in a good place.
Yes.
You can be mad during the day, but at the end of the night, you just make sure that you're settled. And that's my philosophy on life and everything that I do. And being confident is just knowing I put the best efforts that I could forward, and that I'm content.
I love that. The reason I never, and I don't cater to imposter syndrome, when they did this study, did not include Black women. So already we're not in that list. But the other thing is, for me, when I think about, everyone has those moments where it's like either a little bit of self-doubt or it's a new project and you're still trying to figure things out. But I don't allow myself to second guess the fact that I deserve to be there. Never, I've never asked that.
So let me correct.
That might be my ego.
When I mean imposter syndrome, I think women, number one, say women, and then women of color, both of those working simultaneously, we all 10 times harder than everybody else.
Yes.
So there's, and I think that's really prominent and visible in today's climate, that it's being talked about more. You see it on TV shows. There's actually a Netflix show that is about a woman. She's an Asian American woman, and she's in New York, and she's trying to make
the lawyer.
Yes. The whole time she is killing it. She is working those hours. She is working overtime. She is not getting that work-life balance. She is go, like she's checking all the boxes. And then at that ceremony, she's not making partner. And the person who's making partner is the guy who didn't really do anything the whole time. But that's what I'm saying. You've got to work 20 times harder. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's ever going to change. That's the reality that we're in. And so
I think you're right.
When I say imposter syndrome, it's not because you feel like you're not capable. It's because you're allowing others to make you feel like you're not capable.
There you go. Yes.
You gotta be like, at the door, you gotta be like, nope, you know what you're doing. You are overqualified for this. You are doing more than the other person. Do not let someone else, steal your shine or your thunder or anything like that. And so those little moments, they're just natural. They're going to happen because you feel like you're always competing. You can't, you don't have time to coast. You don't have time to go to the silver. Everybody's on that race and you're trying to be number one because that's the only way you're going to get it, unfortunately. You just got to work.
That is so true. That is so true. And I say I do compete with myself. So half the time I don't really care what the other people. I want to best myself. Because, if I best myself, I'm already 150. So I'm just going to best myself to get to 155. But it is exhausting. So I want to talk a little bit about self-care. Honestly, self-care, because when self-care made its rounds during COVID, after 2021, when self-care was kind of making it rounds, it started off being, making sure we're taking time for ourselves. And it leaned a lot towards spas and those types of prepping and kind of taking care of ourselves in that way. Self-care, though, I think has really shifted in the way that we look at mental health and things around that. So I'd love to get your take on maybe what are some of the other things that you do in terms of self-care. Already you've talked about the way that you manage your time and you police your time, which I'm on it. But what are some of the other things or advice you can share around self-care? I'm asking for a friend.
So self-care is one of those taboo subjects. I feel like, especially, again, I'm speaking for minorities, a lot of people don't believe in anything like therapy. They don't talk about it. They brush it under the rug. You're kind of taught to just like suck it up and let it go. I think being open with others is the first step. I internalize things. I'm still a work in progress. Admitting to yourself that you're still a work in progress, I think, is the first step. Sharing is very important. You can't internalize everything because if you bottle it all up, it's just gonna create an issue down the road. So I think being honest with other people and just vibing kind of off of how they feel if they've gone through something similar, just talking about it with someone is really important to me with self-care. I already talked about time management, so that's important. I think also what's important is just Honestly, not being so hard on yourself. I think self-care, like you said, a lot of people think of it as like, oh, I'm going to go to a spa, or I'm going to get my nails done, or I'm going to go get some coffee or eat those calories. But like,
Yeah.
I think self-care is just like not being so hard on yourself. You know, like you don't need to go to every social event that's happening. You don't need to be booked and busy all year round, you know? Like if you want to sit on that couch and watch a TV show for a couple of hours, do that. If you want to eat those calories, do that. Like, don't micromanage yourself. I think so many of us like micromanage ourselves. I mean, you kind of just spoke about it. You're competing with yourself. That self-care is giving yourself a break.
Yeah.
I think that's what I tell all of my friends. They're just they're like, oh, I'm in a rut. I don't know what to do. Like I'm in that stage where we're all turning 30. So I turned 30 2 weeks ago. And so everyone's like, okay, I'm 30. Now what? Some of my friends are like, I'm still not married. I'm still renting. I'm still not in the career that I want. I'm like, yeah, but what are you doing to get to where you want to? You can't watch that. That's another side of self-care. Pushing yourself. That's self-care too. Self-care doesn't equate to being lazy. It's making a goal for yourself. And I tell them, like you got to push yourself instead of whining to me tomorrow, today, go apply for a different job. I think for me, self-care is not staying in a job that's no longer serving you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think, and I've talked about this with different people. I actually had a coffee talk with a VP of a telecommunications company for NAMIC, and I talked about the generational difference of self-care between millennials, Gen Zers, Boomers, Generation X. Boomers, they stayed in their job for 30 years. They got their job at 18, they're retiring at 55. They're like, what are you doing? You're getting another job. You just got that job. You just got that job 6 months ago. I'll look at and I'm really nosy, so I'll look at people's LinkedIn like trajectory of their career, and some of these people, they've worked at the same place for 3 months. Then later they're in another position. Then 2 months later they're in another position. I mean, they're hopping and hopping and hopping. So self-care, and for those people, maybe that works for them. They don't want to stay in the same place. But I think you shouldn't feel guilty if the job that you're in is not serving you. Whether it's something happening with your peers, which, you just got to get over that too. Or it's you don't feel like you're worthy, or you don't think that you're going to be where you want to be the next year or so. Like if you see that you're going to be at a stagnant, don't stay for other people. Do what's best for you, because life is one time.
That's right.
One life. And that's what I try to explain to Generation X and Boomers. And it's not all, I'm not, stereotyping, but a lot of them are just so honed in on security. Yeah. And millennials, we're like a little bit radical, we're like, we're going to get a job in 6 months and then we're going to do something else, but then Gen Z's like, whatever, like, I've been for 2 weeks, I'm ready to hit the door. I'm ready to get another job, So I think self-care is generational. I think we all need to give ourselves a break. And I think we all need to be goal-oriented all the time. You hit that. I always make lists. So I know we're closing in on time, but this is something that I do. Every New Year's Eve, when people are making resolutions, I make a list of maybe 30 items. And then around Christmas time, I will go back and look at that list that I made at the beginning of the year, and I'll just start checking off. Did I do this?
Wow.
I have found in the last 5 years, I have maybe 25 out of 30 things checked off that I actually completed.
Why is that?
I don't know. I really don't. Because before, honestly, I was making unrealistic, or what I thought unrealistic things on my list. So, like some people like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym every day. Like I don't do stuff like that. I'm like, I'm going to go, to a different country this year. I'm going to get a different job this year. I'm going to hit a new bracket of income this year. I'm going to move to a new city this year. I had all of this stuff on, my last New Year's Eve list, and I've checked.
Wow.
But that's because I was giving my time, my energy to the things that mattered to me. And I was thinking about them all year round. because it's
Wow.
not a sprint, it's a marathon.
It's a marathon. So you ended up manifesting those things.
Manifestation is a real thing.
It's for real. I live that life.
I've never read The Secret, which I know is the whole thing about manifestation, but I will say I make lists, and I've done that my entire life. Like, I've been doing it since I was like 10 years old, and I'm telling you, it works for me. You've got to find what works for you and stick to it, because you're going to be derailed along the way. I'm not saying I was like, oh yes, everything, check, you know, like, but you have to think about yourself. You've got to, you know, what's best for you, and be goal oriented. And once you've got all that stuff, like, what's the next thing? Okay, I completed a 5-year plan. Now what's next for me? What's next on the horizon? You know, and so I think you're doing that successfully.
I am. I'm literally, it's happening. I'm the same way. I literally have built.
Appreciate it. Take a moment to stop and be present. Be present and like, this is everything I've hoped for. Everything that I'm experiencing right now, even though there are thunderstorms and hurricanes. I hope for this. I hope for this, and it's happening now. Take that moment.
That is so true.
You have
I love that. That is such, like I said, I'm getting all my coaching because I need it. And I love that. I love that point about, you know, taking a stock. I mean, even this conversation, if someone told me in May that I'd be having this conversation on a live on multiple channels and people are gonna watch it, and like it actually manifested something that was here to happen.
And you backed yourself, because there's always going to be naysayers like, oh, you know, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. Have followers like, you're really going to carve out that time. Don't you have this and this that you're doing? Like, you got to take that out, take that chatter out. You're on a tunnel. You're in that tunnel by yourself some of the time, but you know what you want to do, and you have to stick to that.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Taylar, we're gonna have you come back sometimes in the near future to give us another pep talk, because we want to know about after you've got settled and, you know, pictures and everything. I'm living this life through you.
I definitely want to come back and tell you the aftermath. So like, what happened when I went to New York, you know?
Yes.
I want to answer one more of your questions. And this is sneaky, because I remembered you'd asked me this, because as a millennial, you asked me like, was I Ariana Grande? Was I Beyonce?
Yes.
And on a fun note, I'm gonna say neither. As much as I love Beyonce, my favorite singer of all time is Billie Holiday. So
okay, all right, you got that. I love Billie Holiday.
Sometimes, you know, I'm definitely being myself. Self is important.
Yeah.
So, you know,
we're gonna be attacked by the Beehive, but we don't care. We don't care.
Yeah, no. Like I said, Renaissance is a great album. I'm just saying, you know, I think that's part of my identity too, is just being okay with the fact that, like, while other people are listening to this or that, I'm listening to jazz and blues.
Yes.
That kind of thing. And so I encourage all young women to just be themselves.
I love that.
Follow the herd. Just be yourself.
I love that. Just be yourself. This is so amazing. I'm so grateful that you've come on here. I know you had a long day. I know that you have other options and choices. I'm really honestly just blown away.
Excited and thrilled to be on the show. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Y'all, we're going to say goodbye. Hang out in the back room in our after party, which is just you and me and the Beehive.
Oh God, please don't.
Billie Holiday fans.
This is a PSA, Beehive. Please don't attack me.
Don't come at me, y'all. Please don't come at me on Twitter.
Absolutely not.
We love Beyonce. All right, so we'll tell the people deuces and then we'll hang out in the back.
All right, sounds good.
Bye, y'all. Thanks for watching.
Bye.